Hey there. Hey, this is Lisa Ingram here in Georgia, and gonna wait for a few folks to hop on, and we are going to talk about slip trailing tonight. So I'm gonna go over here and see if I can share this on my page. My business name is Pottery by Lisa, so let's see if I can share that on there so some of my students can watch as well, and hopefully we'll pull them over to Clay Buddies. Hey Lisa, good to see somebody I know. And I've got a few fun things planned for tonight, so we're gonna do just some basics on how I make my lines, how I make my curves, just some basics on a tile, and then I'm going to slip trail on some actual pieces that I make. So I do everything with this bulb right here. I've tried several others, and this one is just the most comfortable for me. So it is the, I guess, the ZM Precision slip trailer, and it's the larger size. Hey Stacy, thanks for hosting this and putting it all together. And just while we wait for some folks to hop on before we get started, I'm Lisa Ingram. I live in Rome, Georgia, and I attended Berry College. That's where I learned about pottery, but I didn't really learn about slip trailing until later on when I realized I wanted some more 3D to add to the process. And it just kind of clicked for me, and so I do a lot of that with my work. I've taught in community pottery studios. I've taught at my college where I graduated from, and then most recently I've taught here in my studio. So someone says the volume seems to be low. Let me know if you can't hear me. I will try and speak up. So just to give you a look, if you're not really sure what slip trailing is, it is the raised clay lines on the surface of pottery. And so it's something that you can actually feel. It's sort of the opposite of carving. It is raised up, and how much it's raised up just depends on the consistency of your slip. And so slip is just very watered down clay. And I make it from the slurry from my bucket from throwing. Hi everybody. Thank you for coming. So there's a mug that I did. This is a colander, so you can see around the rim. I like to do a lot of it around the rim, and I like to do it where you're not going to be eating from. So it's more of the decoration because mine is pretty raised. It has a lot of thickness to it. I don't like for a spoon or any kind of utensil to rub across it. It wouldn't hurt it, but it's just going to make for easier use if the decoration is outside of where you're using it. Okay, so there's a little colander, and then here's a little bowl. And so I really try and make good use of the decorated spaces with the non-decorated spaces, just to give it a balance. So that's a pretty typical piece of something that I like to do. And it just really, for me, it just dresses it up and gives it something fun. So here's one more piece, just a fun little mug. And if you can see, it's even got some on the handle right there, just to give it some extra, something extra. And what I love, I'm not a very intricate glazer, but the decoration that I do with the slip makes the glazes that much more interesting. So I just choose slip colors and glaze colors that will pop on the surface of the clay. So there's kind of a look at what we're doing. If you're not familiar with slip trailing, now you are. So you know what it is. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm going to switch the camera so that you can see my tile right here. and we're just going to talk a little bit about decoration. I attended the Alabama Clay Conference, not this year, but the past year, so in 2019. And I attended one of Julia Galloway's workshops. She's awesome. She is such a great teacher, and she talked about what are decorations. So, hey Peggy, I'm going to switch the camera, so I might not be able to see your comments, but I'll go back if you have questions and answer them afterwards. So let me just turn you guys so you can see where I'm working here. Okay. So I'm pulling some of this from Julia, and here we go. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so Julia talked about how there are basically 4 things that you can do in design. So the first, and it really, I thought that her talk really made design a lot more achievable, a little less scary. So the first is just, we'll just separate this. Got to get this one going. That's the fun thing about slip trailing, is if you don't like your line, you can just make it go away. This one started out with a little clog, and I'll show you how to fix those too, but luckily I've got an extra tip right here that's working. So I'm going to separate this into 4 so we can see the 4 things that you can do with designs. Okay, and this is all just like sketchy, loose stuff. Okay, so one is lines. Everybody can make lines. You can make long lines, horizontal, vertical, diagonal, dotted, etc. Boxes, lines. Everybody can do lines. Okay, so we can do that. Number 2, we can do dots. And of course, this isn't just with slip trailing, this is with anything. Dots. You can do big dots. So if I want a big dot, I can just squeeze in one spot longer. And then a little dot, squeeze less. And then you can go anywhere in between. So yeah, dots are awesome. I've seen people that just have whole lines of slip trailed work that are just a combination of dots. And it's so beautiful. Okay, so we've got lines, dots. Now, the third one is probably what I would consider the hardest, and it's imagery. So I'm totally going to cheat on this one. So imagery are your people, your animal, your bicycles, your butterflies, all of that good stuff. And then the last one is your flowers. So anything floral, which is a lot of like what I do. I do a lot of vines. I do dots, and I do flowers. So we'll just do basic flower right here. So you can see. Here's your flowers. These are not the kind of flowers that I do, but this is just to give you the basics of just some ideas of what you can do with slip trailing, because what I do is totally different than the rest of the world. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this one. There's just some basics on design, and I'm going to get a tray for us to decorate. Okay, I will. I'm gonna back this one up. I hear some of you, or I see some of you guys are saying that you're having a hard time with the volume. Let me know if there's something that you can't hear. I'll try and speak up a little bit more. But if there's something that you miss, just drop a question and I'll answer. All right. Hey, Donna. Hey, Sandra. Okay, so here we go. So this is a piece that I made with a GR pottery form. And I just use a little template like this and cut it out and then press the mold into a piece of foam, and then I let it dry, and now it's leather hard, so I can slip trail on it. And I'll turn this so the mic's a little bit closer to me. I'm sorry you guys are having trouble hearing. I probably have too much clay in my phone. It's a likely problem. Occupational hazard. Okay. So I'm just going to decorate in these little petals right here. And then, oh, this is the cool part for you guys to see. This is my banding wheel, and it has an easel, so I can tilt my work so that it's a little bit more comfortable for me to work on. So it goes up and down, and then it has this little stopper on the side, and it holds the work in place. So I love this, and I use it all the time. Okay. I'm going to get rid of that bat and just work on here. And I'll just start here and then work my way around. Yes, Stacy, that banding wheel, it just rocked my world. I used to prop it up so many different ways, and this is awesome. It's a little bit small, but that's why I use these bats to expand my workspace. So I just hold this in the palm of my hand. I use both hands. Some people can slip trail in the air, but I don't. So I put it on here. I use both hands. I prop my arms either on the table or on my legs, and that just gets me set up. And I fired a cone 6. I have an electric kiln. I'll give you a little tour of my little studio. This is my home studio. But I have no idea where I got this banding wheel. Probably on Clay King because I love them and I get everything from them. So here we go. I'm going to do my little vine pattern. And just start here. And I just start with a little curl. At the beginning and the end, I take my time and just squeeze a little bit of a thicker ball to just give that line a little bit more shape. And then I'll do another one growing off of it. So this is kind of like the bones of it. And then I go back and I fill in with the leaves. So somebody asked if I ever use an air pin. So I broke my arm, not this past November, but the one before. So I had a really weak arm for a long time after that. So I got the air pin for Christmas, and I tried it, but I didn't like it. I didn't have as much control with it. I couldn't really control how my lines looked, so I don't use the air pin. This is great, and it's cordless. So this is simple. It's cordless, and it's just so much easier to me. This one's much more natural. So somebody else asked if I have problems with cracking. Luckily, this slip, this is standard 112 speckled brownstone. And it fits. This is P5 by High Water. The tray is. They fit great. So I do white on white, I do brown on brown, and I do brown on white. White on brown kind of doesn't really add anything, so I usually don't do that. But the only time that I have a problem with it popping off is if my piece that I'm slip trilling on is too dry. So that's really the only time that I have a problem. Or if I do clean up afterwards, I use a sponge and I just soften up the tips because sometimes they'll be a little pointy. Sometimes I'll accidentally knock them off, but usually it stays on. Okay, so there's one little petal done. I'm gonna do dots afterwards. Make sure I'm still on the screen here. And if I got my clay name wrong, I'll make a comment afterwards. I get my numbers mixed up sometimes. But to make my slip, I think Stacy is talking about preparing slip later this week, so she'll be a really good resource. But this is just throwing slip. And then I knew somebody was going to ask. So this is what I mix it with. This is an immersion blender. And so I just mix it in that. And then usually it's too wet. This is actually a little wetter than I like. I just mixed it up Saturday. And so then I just let the water come to the top and I pour it off until I like it. So usually it's about the consistency of pudding. So there's another little petal. I'm gonna leave the end for just dots. So I do my slip fairly thick, but if I feel like my hand is cramping when I'm slip trailing, I know that it is too thick. And so I just have to water it down. I don't put anything in the slip other than water. I have screened it before, but I hate doing that. So I've had good success with a blender. And now I do the immersion blender. So it's so easy. Super easy. Okay. And slip trailing to me is just super fun. It adds so much, and like I was talking about earlier with all the different ways you can approach design. Oh, this is a good lesson. So sometimes it'll skip, sorry, I was looking at some questions. Sometimes it'll skip, and then it's just so wonderful. Like in carving, if you carve wrong, you have to repair and oh, it's the worst. But in this, you just wipe it away. So I have this little finishing sponge by Mud Tools, and it works so good on porcelain. And then I also use just a paintbrush to touch things up as well. And then I just keep going. And it just gets air like that. But it is so fixable. It is really forgiving. It just really wants to skip right there, but I just pick up where I left off. Sometimes I have to erase a good bit more than that. Oh, somebody asked what is my water ratio. I don't know. I just try to get it about like pudding. So, see, I mean, it's pretty wet. And then where I had that little blowout I just come and give it some accessories right here. You'll never know. Once you get glaze on there, looks pretty good. I think I can squeeze in a leaf here. And I just love this. It just, to me, is like, from one little thing, so much can grow. So some things I have it wrapping around the whole thing. And you can just keep going, and you don't have to match it. It just matches all on its own. You can do every one a little bit different, but they still make a set. Oh, and I should mention, so as it dries, so these leaves are a little bit small for me to get my little line on the inside. It shrinks, the slip really tightens up as it dries, and so if I can't really get in there, I can go back and squeeze something in after it dries up a little bit. So I'll come back to that. I'll squeeze in a leaf over here. And some people love this and some people hate it, but I could do this all day. And to me it goes fast. Everything else is kind of a slow process. Squeeze some things so y'all can see better. But this, to me, it just is like, for me, it's the last step, and it's really rewarding because I can do a whole set of mugs and really feel accomplished. Okay, so we're doing dots here. Here's my last petal I need to do. And it just really comes together. Just like petal by petal. And then you look up and you're like, oh, I made it around. Cool. I do words. That's another one I didn't really mention, is you can do words with this. I have a line of nativity scenes that I do, and so I like to do some sort of inscription on top. So I write in cursive on those. Okay, so we're going to do some dots. So I'll show you my big to little. So big dot. And they shrink, so I try and go a little bigger than I want it to eventually be. So then that's just kind of like how I separate it. Okay, Deb says, do you have a tip for keeping the nozzle open from one day to the next? Yeah, that's a good question. So I do. They make things that I should probably use. Yeah, they make things like this. So you can untwist the tip and twist this on there, then rinse out your tip. But this is what I do because I'm kind of like, oh, I'll be right back. I stick my needle tool in the tip, and then I stick it in the window, and then I come back when I come back. So that's my really high-tech way. But they make things that are for that. You can wrap it in plastic too if you lose your thing. I used to stick needles in the tip and they rusted. But I usually, I definitely don't wash it out in between every one. And these, I don't know if you can tell, but they do look kind of pointy. But that comes right off. I just use my little finishing sponge, my little mud tool sponge, after it gets hard, and just clean it up. But yeah, it is really nice that I don't have to study this side to make this side match. It just works. I don't stress over it. It's just doodling. This is like, I don't know, handles are hard. Attachments to me of any kind are hard, but this is super laid back and easy. Make sure you can see this one. It's a little bit off the camera. And if I missed your question, my camera is pointing down, straight down right now. If I missed your question, I will check it later. I'll see if I can see it on my computer. Okay, so there's one. Yay! There you go. Okay, so there's the tray. There's your little oval tray. So let's do a plate next. So I have a cool trick for these. So this is a little plate that I did. Oh, you want to see a finished tray? That'd be a good. Oh, I don't have a tray like that one finished. But I did show some finished things at the beginning of this video, so you can take a peek at that. So this is another tray, another plate that I did on one of the GR forms for plates. So it has a little foot as well. And here we go. So this one, I am going to use my little decorating disc here. So if you haven't seen these, this is the even number decorating disc. And I'm going to separate it into 6 sections. So like the last one, I'll have petals, and I'll decorate in between those 6 marks. There we go. Okay, and it has holes in it. And so wherever it has a 6, I just make a tiny little mark. And they have an odd number decorating disc too that comes when you order that one. So I just start out with my little dots. So here's kind of a similar thing. This one's separated into 6s as well. So instead of dots, I did these little dot things. But it's the same idea. So sometimes I hit these dots, these marks just right, but I'll do 1, 2, and then that just separates them out just right. I will eyeball things sometimes, but the dinner plates, they need a little bit more attention. Okay, so there's my 6 dots. The decorating disc, I think you could get at any clay supplier, so pretty much anything I have, I got at my clay supplier in Atlanta named Davins. Anything easy to ship is from Clay King. I love Clay King. I feel like I order it. Whoops. I order from Clay King. I live in Georgia, they're in South Carolina, and I feel like it's on my doorstep the same day. It's amazing how quick they are. It's really, I mean, it's 2 days, but it's like the Amazon Prime, whoopsie, of pottery stuff. I love them. And I love to shop for pottery stuff. It's very fun. I think they make some small decorating discs too, but I really like the big ones for my big bowls and things like that. Okay, let's not do that. After I have a blowout like that, or like that was just a little bubble, it wasn't even a blow. I just blow, or I just squeeze off a little line into my bucket to to clear out anything because they come in, they usually come in pairs. But yes, I love Davins too. They are so fun. I just am not in Atlanta as often as I'm on the internet. So when I go to Davins, it's usually for clay. But I have good friends that say, hey Lisa, I'm going to Davins. You want some clay so we can get a bigger discount? I'll bring it to you. And I say, sure, bring me 300 pounds. So this one, I'm not skipping anything. I'm going in every, all 6 areas. So our schools have been out for about a week and a half now. I'm here in Georgia, and so my kids, I have 2 kids. I have a first grader and a pre-K student. So we are doing homeschool stuff, and I'm doing an art project a day on my personal Facebook page, but I made them public. So I'm just coming up with some kind of art projects for kids. And we do them. They're usually Pinteresty or something like that. And then we post our results. So if you have kids at home that need something to do, you can look on my page. And so far I've got 6 kids quarantine projects, art projects that you can do at home. And it's just been with things I found around my house, like paper plates, construction paper, oil pastels, coffee filters. So I want to do some for my pottery students too, but when you have your kids home all day, it's hard. So anyhow, this is a nice change from cutting and pasting. Okay. Oh, a slip recipe. I did talk about it earlier, but I'm pretty simple. I'm not that fancy of a person. I just do the slurry from the bottom of my throwing bucket and then use an immersion blender and then just pour off water until I like the consistency. So the recipe is clay plus water. Whoop, I could feel that one coming. Oh yeah, so I was going to show you, so you start to get blowouts when you get towards the bottom of your slip trailer, or the bottom of your slip. So I'll show you how I fill it up. So that'd be a good thing to know. Okay, so here is some slip right here. See, it's really too runny for me, but that's okay. I'm gonna deal with it. But I notice as I get towards the bottom, there's a lot of bubbles. So I just take this, nice squeeze. So it's got some suction, and then submerge it in the slip, release and suck it up, pull it out, and then clean up the sides. Then I'll shake it. Okay, so Jim says, did you start with a printed pattern or just patience and practice? Oh yeah, no, I would be pretty mad if I wouldn't feel good about following a pattern because I hate to be precise like that, if that makes sense. I've had people ask me to do things like hummingbirds and guitars and that kind of thing, and I can do it, but I just prefer to doodle. That is what I like to do. So it's definitely evolved over time, but it does evolve fairly slowly. So for a long time it was just swirls, and then after a few years I was like, oh, I'm gonna go crazy and add leaves. So that's kind of how that goes. But I do flowers as well. Here we go. And then I've got one wheel thrown piece that I'll slip trail, and then I'll show you around the studio, and that will be the demo. So I'll keep watching for questions. Yeah, the art projects for the kids, the quarantined kids, have been really fun for me. Thankfully, my husband, he's a teacher, so he's working from home, and my kids are home, so I definitely would be pretty lonely if I was quarantined alone. But doing these art projects with the kids and then sharing them with my friends that have kids has helped me stay connected, and then doing things like this helps me stay connected. So that's been really fun, and then the kids' parents will post pictures. I did a live Play-Doh demo last week. That was awesome. I don't usually let my kids play with Play-Doh because I hate the mess it makes. I hate Play-Doh crumbs. But I was like, okay, I'll do it for the cause. I'll do it to help people make it through social distancing. I love that this studio is separate from my house. This is a building completely detached. So all of my mess is out here. And of course it's my mess, it's not kid mess, so I have a little bit more control over the cleanliness of it. Okay, so do I change nib sizes or stick to maybe the larger? Okay, I think what you mean is like the tips. Yeah, I can change them out, but usually I just stick with one that I like. And so sometimes my porcelain slip will be a little bit runnier, just a little thinner. So I'll have to go with a thinner tip, but usually I just stick with one. Okay, this is the last one, and we've made it around. And I'll just stick my leaves. Few little frills on there. This guy will zoom out and you can see the whole thing. But we are one of the hot spots right now for the virus. So we're doing our best to just stay home. So I'm definitely going to be watching these videos this week and just hanging out here. So, okay, so there's a look at the plate, and I'll show you, I'm doing some sets of these, so I'll show you a couple more. So here's a Fire Cone 6 electric. So here's some pieces in the kiln that go with this set. So this one's not really with the set, but these are the dinner plates, soup bowls, and then over here, you can see what the salad plate looks like inside of it, and then the mugs are in the bottom of the kiln. So there's another soup bowl. Here's another tray like you saw earlier. Okay, so what glaze will I use on the plate? Probably white. So it will have the white clay, brown clay contrast like this. So I'm working on a white dinner set right now for a bridal registry. Okay, so then I've got one more. I don't like slip trailing in the air, so I have one more little trick for propping and getting things situated like I like, so that I can slip trail on any angle. Okay, so the forms, oh, and my name is Lisa Brown Ingram. So Elizabeth Ingram is what I was registered as, but you can follow me, Lisa Brown Ingram. I'll post, I'll tag myself so you can find me, and you can find the kid art projects. But real quick, so this is the salad plate. This is the dinner plate form. And then this is the oval for the tray. Okay, so this is my last little trick. So right now I'm just throwing small things. I love to do all sizes, but I am slowing down a little bit. I'm having a baby in August, so I am going with just small things on the wheel and then doing some hand baling. And the forms, the GR forms have been awesome to help me keep some of the big pieces coming. So this is something that is pretty hard for me to slip trail on. So I made myself a little box. So this is from my kids' shoes. And I put some pipes on the side of it. It has a big sponge in the bottom, and then a little towel on top. And so I'll turn you back down here so you can see. So then I just have this little box and I can prop it up so I can get this almost level. And thank you. Yes, we're excited. This is third baby. We have 2 girls and this one's a boy. So we are not going to know what to do with a boy, but maybe he'll like pottery. We'll see. But that's okay if he doesn't. That's all good. So I've got, oh, you can't really see. Hang on, let me pull you around here. Okay, we'll go like this. So I'm going to slip trail just a little something right here, just at the top, because these always, I really fill up my ring dishes with all kinds of stuff, so I save the decorations for the top. This one will be a little bit harder to see because it's brown on brown. Let's see, can you see that? It's pretty dark. Let's see if I can. Okay. So I'm just gonna do really, really simple. But I love this little box. I really made it to do handles in. So you can lay your cups. That looks about right. But you can lay your cups right here and then stick your handles on the side. So I love my silly little box. I'll have my students in here and they'll be struggling with handles and I'm like, you need the Paw Patrol box. And it just solves all our problems. This one I'm just going to do probably the 2 petals here. My slip is a little bit thick for what I want to do. So it may come off later. But I threw a bunch of these little ring dishes the other night so I could get some more slip. But this is just a little bit on the runny side. But we'll do some dots and then we'll call him a done deal. He'll still be fancy. Dots are always fun. So if you're just learning how to slip trail, dots are such a great place to look. To start. Here we go. So I've been very thankful to be a potter. I work at home. I can take care of my kids at home. And I miss the world, but I can still do my thing while I social distance and keep everybody safe. So there's just a little look at how I slip trail on a vertical wall. Plates and trays are easy, but when you're doing something like a mug, I would lay it in here. And then I could wait for it to dry and then do the other side. Or what I usually do is, this is like totally me. I just put it right here and hold it between my legs and turn it. And then I can do the whole thing without any of it getting smushed. Okay, so we'll take a little tour. I'll catch a few more questions and then we'll do our little tour. Okay, so let's see. At what point do you smoosh down the points? Okay, that's a good question. So usually, I hate doing that part, so I wait until it's time to load the kiln. So that'd be like dry. But it's really better if you can get it like when it's just past leather hard and you're not wiping away too much, but it's soft enough to give pretty easily. But I can do it on bone dry. That's what I usually do. But then I'm more likely to knock it off. But if I do knock it off bone dry, I fill it back in. So if I knock off like a little ball, if I knock off a ball right here, I will put it back on, wait for it to dry a little, and then smooth it back down. But I always use that little sponge and go over every single point, every single line ending, so that it feels good on your hand. And the driest clay can be to slip trail, leather hard. You can't go past it. But I just wrap up stuff and give myself the time that I need, and then spritz it if I need a little extra time. So I think you've seen a lot of the studio. It's just a little building. It's really not that little. I've been in places much smaller, but this is my kiln. It's awesome. And then there's his baby. So if I need something tested or done quickly, I can put it in there. I recycle my clay. So you can see that. And oh, I'll show you the writing that I do. So it's going to be backwards, but this says "We adore thee." So this is one of the nativities that I do. So there's a sample of the writing. And slip trailing cursive is so easy. And then I've just got a few wheels over here. and there's one for standing, and then I've just got a table, and that's kind of how I work. I just make the pieces, and then everything gets decorated and glazed pretty simple. So that is slip trailing from me. There's lots of ways to do it, but it has been really fun, just to be simple. And oh, a flower. Oh yeah, here's the flower. So I did a little demo earlier. Here's a look at one of the flowers that I do. So they're a little bit more elaborate. And you are so very welcome. Thank you for coming out. I hope it makes your quarantine a little bit more enjoyable. And if you are one that has to work outside of the home, thank you. And thank you for all that you do. And to vent my kiln, I open the door. That's all I do, Sandra. So anyhow, that's it. I will look for your questions, and I'll put my link on there so that if you have some more questions, you can find me. But thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and thanks for all the great questions. Bye.